Film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on Facebook at Crazon Dion.
Hey everybody, this is Lunell, the original bad girl of comedy. I'm here at the Link Promenade in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, and you're watching the Film Review.
What's going on, people? What's going on, people? This is another great, robust show of the Film Review, movies, music, culture, politics, and society. And do we have a robust show for you tonight? We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, and society. And let's start off, people. Let's start off with the blurbs, right?
Gosh, yeah.
Let's start off with the blurbs
This
because this week has been incredibly insane, and so we need to start with the blurbs.
Yeah.
And so, how was your week so far? How was your week?
Well, you know, with everything that's going on in Iran and
Yeah, we're gonna get to all that.
and with the Meghan and Harry and
Yeah.
the weather here in the States.
Oh yeah, crazy stuff going on. All right, so blurbs. I don't know what's going on over here. Let me fix this screen real quick because I'm looking at this and this is not looking the way we usually have it.
Snowy.
Yeah, kind of snowy. I don't know what's going on. So see if we can fix this real quick. Make it less snowy. There we go. Now we're in business. All right, people. So, how was your week? Let's see. Blurbs.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Let's bring this call up real quick. 602 on the line. Let's see. Good afternoon. The Film Review. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is T West. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, T West?
It's an honor to have you here.
Honor to have you on the show.
Yes.
We're gonna start with the blurbs real quick. We're gonna put you back on hold. We're gonna start with the blurbs, then we're gonna give you the honor introduction that you deserve,
Yes.
and then we're gonna bring you right in. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We'll put you back on hold. All right, people. So look, the blurbs this week.
Okay.
Fox is cornering the market with this new station that they have called Fox Soul.
Oh yeah.
Fox Soul. Fox TV cornering the market with this new network. They got conservatism with Fox News, got sports with Fox Sports, got stock with Fox Financial, got TV with FX and Fox TV.
Right.
Movies with 20th century Fox,
Right.
black issues and entertainment,
Right.
talk, comedy with Fox Soul, right? And I discovered it because they had ADOS on, right? And I'm sitting up here like, they're cornering the market, right? And people can't tell me that they wouldn't want to be on Fox.
I mean, because from what I've been seeing so far, they have had a lot of great, like, interviews, different, from the black community, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's pretty good. Like, I've seen comedians.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because, Fox, a lot of black people criticize the shows on Fox, like Empire.
Okay.
But they never criticize Fox for having the conservative station that is a lot of times covers things that are anti them, but they will criticize the creators who are on Fox. But then if Fox gave them a call to be on Fox Soul, they will be on Fox Soul in a second.
How long has Fox Soul
you know what?
been
I
on?
just discovered
Because when I
it.
was like flicking through, on the internet.
It seems like an internet thing,
Yeah.
right? And it might be a pay subscription type thing, like BET, the BET subscription channel that they have.
Okay.
But other than that, they show like clips of their shows on the internet platform. So I I was like, wow, Fox is just doing
Talking
it.
about black issues.
They're talking about black issues, right?
Yeah.
So, another blurb, Oprah
Okay.
stepped away from the Me Too
Okay.
doc on Russell Simmons.
Okay.
Says it isn't ready.
Okay.
But she's probably feeling the pressure because, you know, her friend, Harvey Weinstein, at least he looks like her friend.
Right.
People are criticizing her because she's not saying anything about Harvey Weinstein.
Well, she said that there were too many inconsistencies in the Russell Simmons documentary, so that's why she stepped away.
Yeah, because it was pressure. Because she stepped away from the Michael Jackson accusers too, right? She pulled all that down from off her site.
Right.
Because, you know, nowadays, the things that I believe that she used to get away with, as far as anti-black male, she can't get away with now because of social media. Okay. And I mean, I'm sure they're going to try to put the clamp down. Okay. Samantha Barbash is suing Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers movie, $40 million. Okay. There's a musical coming too, and she's not in the loop to get paid for her life, which is really her intellectual property.
Right. That's not fair.
That's not fair, because she had done thumbs down when they approached her, but the movie still came out.
Right.
Then they came with the music.
How do you create a film and a play about someone's life, and they're still alive, and you don't even include them in either of the projects that you're making money off of?
Making money.
Right.
And then there is Cynthia Erivo, right? She's been nominated for an NAACP award, and just off the wire, the British Academy of Film and Technology or whatever, they snubbed her. They wanted her to come perform her song, but she was snubbed as far as an award. So now she's speaking out about, you know, them pretty much wanting to make her like a carnival act, right?
Well, the NAACP will give her an award.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I say is how apropos is it that she is nominated by a group that represents a group that she believes to be a kata, wild animal cotton pickers, right? See, it was never really about her being African, right? It's because we would have liked Lupita.
That was disappointing because we reviewed a few of her films,
right?
And she did excellent acting,
yeah,
right? And we were like cheerleaders for her until like the different negative tweets that she
that are out on Afro
regarding like a black American. So I'm like,
talking about ghetto accents.
We were cheerleading for you, and you're speaking about a whole community of people who
talking about ghetto accents.
Right. So that was disappointing.
Talking about katas and we're gonna see her do the ghetto language, and it's ridiculous, right? So because we would have liked Lupita to have played Harriet, because Lupita would have brought it, because Lupita is active, she speaks out, and maybe Erivo may be coming around because
the way she's being treated now,
right, because she's speaking to the Brits, and when you speak to the Brits, they had a stiff upper lip, and then you be really risking your is her friend coming out for Star Wars?
The guy who spoke against what's his name? Samuel Jackson.
Yeah. Is he coming out to talk for her? Yeah. Right. So
speaking of Brits.
Speaking of Brits, let me bring this up here. Harry and Meghan.
Yeah. So according to the Washington Post, right? How much did the Brits tabloids' brutal coverage of Harry and Meghan impact their decision to step back? So a few things, right? So Harry and Meghan have endured for the past several years brutal tabloid stories, right? So the couple, for instance, they had to sue the Mail on Sunday. Let's see. I need my glasses zoned up. Okay, so it says in the fall, the couple sued the Mail on Sunday News for publishing a private letter that Meghan wrote to her estranged father after her wedding, right? Harry also filed a lawsuit against the Daily Mirror and the Sun, claiming they hacked his phone. So those multiple issues, that's just like a few. That's just like the tipping.
And now the media, now the British media is acting upset that they're stepping away.
Yeah, but like for instance, they had a problem with the baby shower that Serena threw for her. And in another issue, they said that she cradled her stomach too much while she was pregnant, showing off that she was flaunting her baby bump, they said. And then what might have, another issue now, for like this issue right here, the British DJ, the BBC DJ Danny Baker, right? Mm-hmm. He compared baby Archie, Meghan and Harry's baby to a monkey. So that's just a tipping on the cake. So there was just like so much negative, like tabloid stories that we couldn't even cover all of it right now. That's just like a little bit of what they endured. So now that they're stepping back, then now the British tabloids are like, they have a lot of nerve for stepping back. Who wants to be in a situation where they're constantly being like picked apart and bullied and bullied and bullied, right? So you had an issue when they were around, right? So now you have an issue that they've moved on. So are they supposed to just stand there in that space so you can just punch on them? And abuse them? It's crazy.
All I say is if he steps away, if he truly, because they're having a meeting on Monday, if he steps away from his privilege, actually steps away from his privilege, he truly loves that woman, he truly loves Meghan, and he should be big upped the whole way because he's giving up a lot, even though he would never necessarily be king, but to step away from that, you know what I'm saying, and really realize that they are being, and she's especially being abused, right? You know, it's mental abuse with all the tabloid things coming up. For him to actually step away from that, step away from his privilege, he should be big up for that because he loves that woman, and that means that, and she really loves him to go on. But plus, she went and signed a deal with Disney right off. She said, "I'm not going to be Queen of Monaco." Breaks going out somehow when she coming down. Grace, Princess Grace. I'm not Queen Grace. I'm not going to be coming down the hill, and I'm not going to be Princess Di. Going through the tunnel, and next thing you know, the paparazzi following. Next thing you know, something happens. Who knows?
Well, the threats that they received, you know, death threats. Right. So look, people. Now, the big blurb of this been going on for the last 2 weeks, and we covered it, right? First of all, Trump's affiliates. Turning Point USA have begun their campaign for the black vote. They have this whole campaign going right now where they show you what Trump has done, right, for black people, right? Now, the only thing in here that I don't necessarily agree with in what's being said here is talking about signed prison reform, right? He signed prison reform, but prison reform is for everyone, right? And I had a person write me when I put this up, and she said that prison reform is federal and not state, so it's not really affecting the states. But I thought federal trickles down like trickle-down economics. Sooner or later it's going to get there. But really, I thought it was for Jared's father. And it just so happens that it helped other people, but Jared pushed it, and Kim K helped to co-sign it, and Trump signed it, and here we are. So, you know, that's the only thing about that. But they talk about lowest black unemployment, black businesses stimulated over 400%. What else? For black. I can't say black workers' wages have gone up, etc. Then they talk about that. Then they talk about pardon wrongfully convicted people of color, right? So with that, they're starting their campaign, and how do you combat that? How do you combat something like that when, you know, Trump lives on TV. TV is Trump's briar patch, right? How do you
combat that? I mean, no one has come up with the solution to combat that to make him a one-term president. So how do you do that? Now, on top of that, Trump has had a winning 2 weeks, right? He had the U.S. drone strike that killed Qasem Soleimani, who was the top Iranian commander, blew him up. The Iranians struck back with 2 missile strikes in Iraq. But then they go on and then they shoot down a Ukrainian airplane with civilians on it, killing 176 people. This is really making Iran look inept, and they said it was unintended. They didn't intend to shoot him down, right? My question is, like, a lot of the people, like, you know, you have to say what's good and what's bad. Taking out someone that was going to take out 4 embassies, right? Trump told you at the very beginning when he would be interviewed, he's not going to tell his hand. He's not going to show his hand. He's like he's playing bid whist or poker. He's not going to show his hand. He's not going to give a tell. He's going to be right there in it. And then the Democrats were upset because he didn't give the briefing, didn't give them exact information. But then he went on Fox News and gave the thing about the 4 embassy plans by Somali to something, whatever his name is, to kill, to take out the 4 embassies, right? And he was going on TV, so he wasn't going to give it to the Democrats to say. Common sense. I mean, it's common sense, and people have to decide whose side are they on. And why do I say that? I say that because does anyone really know what war looks like? We can go back to the Revolutionary War, right, between Britain and America. Then you can go to the Civil War and look at the images of the people's faces being blown off, the carnage, right? Then you can go to World War I, and when the crew bombs and the people will come back with half their face gone, and look at those pictures, and you just go on through and you can look at the wounded warriors today and how they come back. War is brutal, and would you rather have it on this shore or somebody else's shore? So people have to, in my opinion, make and choose which side they're on as far as talking about war and everything, because it looks like to me, just by watching and just by observing, that Trump put something down that was going to start, and the Iranians have backed off because they know that America's firepower can destroy all their oil fields, can destroy all of their short-range ballistic missiles, can just wipe it all out in one night, and it will be over. So, you know. So, people, that brings us to our guest for tonight, right? Right. Let me get to this right here so we can do this, right? AfriSynergy News is a social media news platform on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. T. West is the owner of AfriSynergy News, which provides geopolitical news analysis as well as social economic news and analysis. On August 2015, T. West not only was the first to predict that Donald Trump would defeat the Republican candidates and Hillary Clinton for the presidency, but T. West also indicated the exact reasons why voters would vote for Trump. He has pointed out to his hundreds of thousands of viewers why Donald Trump's platform is better for African Americans, especially on illegal immigration. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have this man. And before I bring him up, I'm going to change and make sure his image is up so people will know who we are speaking with right now on the live stream, right? So let me bring this up right now. We got T. West right there in the center. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to bring up on the line T. West from AfroSynergy News. T. West, are you there?
Yes, my brother, my sister. How are you? Beautiful, beautiful evening.
How are you?
Yes. We are honored to have you.
Oh, I am doing well.
We are more than honored, and thank you for coming on to our show.
Yes.
And what I'm going to tell you is we're going to get into different topics because we want to talk about the African American national political agenda. I have some questions on that, and then we have questions on like what we were talking about earlier about President Donald Trump and the issues that's going on in Iran. And we know that you do that because unlike what they do on television on the different channels, CNN or MSNBC, where when it's time to talk about international issues, they only seem to have people who are Caucasian or what would be considered Arab talking, but they never have a black person talk unless they're talking about something about race. But you cover all of it.
Yes.
And so we are, like I said again, honored to have you on the line. And so I'm going to ask you questions, but I'm not here to debate you, but I'm going to push back on some things to get clarity because we need clarity in these times that are going on, because this is here to honor you and not try to try to challenge you. We're not doing that. Okay? So this is a safe space here on the film review.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't back down to a challenge either. So, because this is a day and age when there are a lot of talk that's happening in television and radio, on social media, and much of it is about winning the hearts and minds of the people. So, hey, I don't mind going into the trenches, but I am so happy and elated to be here on you all's program. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Let's get right into it now. There's a debate going on, and it's like three factions that I see happening over the internet right now. It's Pan-Africanism, the Black Native movement, as I coin it, and ADOS, right? And there's many others. There's the Hebrew Israelites, and then of course Nation of Islam, the standard as far as teaching us about what happened in the past to bring it forward today and how to eat to live and all that. But we're speaking on these three because there is a bewildering battle happening between these three people that we observe. And at first, it seemed a year ago, it seemed like everyone were
on the same
code.
page.
They were on code and said, okay, we may have disagreements, but we're not going to speak against. But all of a sudden, all heck broke loose, and now it's like the closer we get to this possible re-election, and the closer that we got to get to reparations, everyone is like seeming to go for self for some reason. And so we want to break that down. So the first group that I want to talk about is Pan-African and what Pan-Africanism is. Pan-Africanism began in the mid-19th century in the United States. The most notable Pan-Africans were Martin Delany and Alexander Crummell. Both believed the African diaspora had more in common than different, and those likenesses should be celebrated. And in a political framework, they envisioned a unified African nation where all people of African diaspora could live or can live. The Black Native movement, blacks were here on the land called the Americas as early as 100,000 years ago through the Bering Strait. Later, 30,000 years ago from the wet and lake-filled Sahara towards the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. I took a geography class for filmmakers, and this is true because over years a wet climate can turn dry. Example, Las Vegas, when first discovered, was a wet oasis that turned desert due to climate and human habitation. It's no doubt with books like They Came before Columbus, and the archaeologist finds that blacks were the first before the Asians took over the identity of a civilization already established. Then we have the people, ADOS, American descendants of slavery, who say due to the economic disparities between blacks and whites, blacks should be made whole due to the cause of the economic disparities, slavery, Jim Crow, and laws put into place to keep black people, ADOS, from achieving true citizenship. ADOS should receive reparations from the United States government. So those three groups seem to be at odds with each other. What is wrong in your opinion with each group's fundamental ideology? What's wrong with those groups? Why they would be butting heads with each other and not see more likeness, like the Pan Africanism says? See more likeness instead of what they're seeing, more division.
Okay, well, that was a good intro there. Well, first of all, let me say this. Even before the Bering, the coming up through Alaska, northern part of the world, and through Alaska, coming into North America, and then on down to South America, even before that, you had Africans who were coming here by ship before that. Mm-hmm. And they've been coming ever since, long before the first Europeans ever even arrived here. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to clarify that first. And those who are coming up through Alaska, the Bering Strait area, coming up through that area at one time, those were peoples who had some people refer to them as Mongoloids, okay? But those were people who resembled many of the Native Americans that we see today here in the United States, the majority of them. Now, you also had, as I said, even before that happened, and even after it happened, you had Africans who were coming here by ship, coming to Mexico, Brazil, and even right into what is now called the United States of America. You had all of that. Now, there are some, you're talking about the three groups here, there are some who talk about, we were already here. Black people were already here. Now, there is some truth to that, but those who say that the majority of you, or most of you, or all of you were already here, well, that's totally not true. That's not true at all. There were a small number of black of people who had come from Africa who were here, indeed. But most of our ancestors, most of them came and were brought here by ship into enslavement. Now, also, let me also add this. Even before chattel slavery began here in the United States, you had blacks who came over here from Europe when those Europeans came here by ship. You had some blacks who came over. Some of them came over, they were free. Some of them came over, and just like some of the white groups, they were indentured servants. It was only in 1619 when you started seeing blacks being enslaved here, and eventually they codified it so that slavery only entailed black people, not white people. Okay? So, but prior to that, you had blacks and whites who were indentured servants, and you had blacks who were also free people right here in the early America, before the United States was even formed as a country. So I just want to clarify that first.
Okay, so now, let me ask this real quick and then continue on. So, are any of those? Do you believe that all of those people who came here during those different time periods do you believe that all of those people were wiped out, or have we been mixed together like in the 1920s when they took, some people were saying they were native people and they categorized all black people as Negro in the 1920s. Are you saying that none of those people still exist, that were free people or navigators that they would call Moors, or the people who came across the land bridges? Because I watched a couple of documentaries and they said that the people who came over 100,000 years ago, they thought were Mongoloids. The ones that came over around 30,000 years ago were actually the Mongoloids that had been changed over from changing due to climate. But the ones who came over 100,000 years ago were actually black Africans, and they have reconstructed faces. Are you saying that none of those people still exist and are commingled in once they changed in the 1920s, changed it over to saying just Negro and all people who are black are Negroes?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that what you have and what you had a lot of people who were wiped out by the Europeans in this land. Now, how were they wiped out? Not all of them, but a lot of them. Most of them were indeed wiped out. How were they wiped out? Well, throughout history, the biggest weapon used in warfare was disease. And the Europeans were notorious for using disease to kill in war. The British did it. The British would use smallpox and other European diseases to wipe out people here. Now, why was it so easy to wipe out many of the native peoples here in this land through and with disease? Well, here's the answer. The native peoples here, they relied upon certain things to survive. They relied upon, in certain areas of the country, you had millions and millions of bison, or what we call buffalo, and they relied upon the buffalo for food, for clothing, the hide for clothing and all. Also the hide they could also use for building their homes, making their homes warm and all. So when the Europeans came, they started killing off the bison and other animals that the native peoples relied on, which was a part of their whole cultural life, day in and day out. They killed these things off, and if you don't have the buffalo, you don't have warmth. You don't have food as much or in abundance as you had before. So a lot of people, they would starve to death. They would freeze to death. So the British, what did the British do? The British here in North America, including what is the United States right now, and Canada, the British says, oh, hey, here's some blankets. And with some of those blankets, knowing full well that those blankets were infected with smallpox. So smallpox affects one member of the family, and other members of the family are there also. It is contagious. It starts affecting others. So it kills off people. And it killed off a lot of the Native American people. So Europeans and the British are very, very tricky. Very tricky. I heard you talking earlier about the princess and the prince, Princess Diana's son-in-law. Yeah, the Brits are like that. Yeah, they can be very nasty, okay? Very sneaky too, very conniving. And that's not a new thing. It's been that way for a long time. So that's the way that they were with the native peoples of this land. Now, let me give you a big difference between the native peoples who were already here versus Africans, whether they came on the slave ship or they came before that, okay? The African peoples, many of the Africans had immunities to some of and many of the European diseases. And they also had treatments for it, because smallpox was not a new thing to Africans. It was not new to them. Ancient Egypt was aware of smallpox, and other areas of Africa was aware of smallpox. Even among those who had been brought here as slaves, one thing that was noticed among those who were enslaved was that if smallpox affected anyone in the African group here, they noticed that the persons who were wise or knowledgeable in medicine, in the roots and remedies like that, they noticed that what that person would do, they would go to a person who had smallpox, and they would dip into the pus of that smallpox, and then what they would do, they would take that and they would put just a little dip of that on the tongue of others who had not been affected yet by smallpox. That was their way of inoculating them. This was among the Africans. The Africans knew about this. You know, later on, the whites, of course, they're observing, the whites came up with cowpox as a vaccine for smallpox. Okay, so that was one reason why the black Africans were not wiped out, whether they came, as I said, before the slave ships came, bringing more Africans into what is now the United States, into enslavement. So, so once again, I'll say again that no, not all of the people were wiped out. We see that even today. We see it among various tribes right here today in the United States of America. And they vary, all these tribes, they vary in complexion. Some of them are like white. Some of them are darker, and then some of them are about as dark as you and me. Okay? The hair texture varies also. Some of them have hair that's similar to many African Americans. Some of them have hair that's kind of in between, curly, but dark. Okay. The hair being dark and all. So you had a mix of people who were already here before the Europeans arrived here in this land.
And America,
all the way from South America.
And America, the land body of America, which is really the Americas, which is really Canada all the way through to South America, that would be, they would have already built civilization before the European got here.
That is correct. Now, as far as numbers, you did not have over here in this area, in this Western Hemisphere, unlike Africa, unlike some parts of Europe, definitely unlike many parts of Asia, you literally did not have millions upon millions of people already here. Okay? You had thousands in some areas, thousands in other areas. This was a very, very big and very vast continent, North America, and then on down into South America. Very vast area. And many, many different tribes, many, many different languages right here. Now, some have said that they make the argument that, well, Key West, we were already here. Black folks were already here. We did not come over here on slave ships, Key West. And then I'll ask them this question. I'll ask them, do you know of any black man or black woman, just one, who speaks, and they've been speaking this Native American language all of their lives? Can you name one black man or black woman who speaks any of the native languages? And we know many of the native languages still exist. Some of them have been extinct because certain groups have been virtually extinct over here. But we still have a lot of native languages here spoken. But yet, people are hard pressed to produce black folks, black people, okay, who are outside of any of these tribes, who speak the various languages, Native American languages, Choctaw, or any of the Chickasaw, any of those languages, Iroquois, Cherokee, and we know many of the Cherokees, many of them, they're more whitish in skin complexion. Okay? So,
Would that be the $5 Indian? The Europeans that paid for.
Say it again.
The $5 Indian, would that be the $5 Indian that paid $5 to be put on the blood, to be said that their blood had, kind of like, what's her name running for president?
Kamala?
No, not Kamala Harris.
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren, who said she was a Indian, and Trump said she got as much Indian. I got as much Indian as her as I do, and that's none. And he calls her Pocahontas. Is that an example of people saying that they are Indians and they actually aren't?
Well, that could be an example. But you have, and that's Elizabeth Warren's attempt to appropriate the culture of another people. But you have African Americans who do the same thing. They try to appropriate the culture of these native people. Now, you do have some African Americans, because some of the Native American tribes and African Americans or blacks, they did mingle together. Okay? They did have children together. You had that. That did happen, just like blacks had children with white folks. Okay? And all of that still happens today. Okay, so you have some people who are hardly within those tribes, okay, through miscegenation. And then you also have some miscegenation that happened before the white man ever arrived here, between blacks, between Africans who arrived, as I said earlier, who arrived here before the Europeans arrived here. So you had blacks at that time even marrying and having children with the various native tribes who were already here also. You had that. That happened. Still happens.
Right. So
yeah,
you
$5
had
Indian. Okay, that term right there with the $5 Indian. Yes, you have white people who appropriate the culture of Native American people. Now, but at the same time, you also have and had, before Europeans arrived here, you had some Native Americans who looked white-skinned also. Okay? White skin was not just only a characteristic of Western Europe. Okay? It was a characteristic, more or less, in many, many areas of the world, including in some parts of Africa. It's just that in Africa, when you come out and your skin is white, and some of them are born albino, some of the Africans there, unfortunately, they would kill those children. Okay?
Or cast them out, or cast them out, correct?
Pardon?
Or cast them out.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you had a show. You had a show yesterday, I believe it was. 'Cause I was listening to it. You talked about a group of Indians.
That's Friday.
Friday, excuse me. You talked about a group of Indians in Florida that, when you showed the picture, they looked black. Could they have been people who had survived from 100,000 years ago once the Asians started to come over around 50,000 years ago? They came over and then they kind of co-opted the culture, and then they just moved over to Florida, said, leave us alone and you can have all of that. And isn't that really what the people who claim Black Nativism, the Black Nativism movement, isn't that what they're really saying, that another group of people came across the Bering Strait who were more hostile and did what was done to the African and the European so many centuries later, that they co-opted their customs and took it? And could it really mean that they're not really trying to co-opt the Asian Native Americans here now, but are really trying to take back what was stolen from those people so many centuries ago?
Well, I think that was not Florida. I think you might be talking about in
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Yes.
Yeah, the Pequot tribe there.
Yes.
Yeah. You have in that tribe, even today, in that tribe, if you really looked at some members of that tribe, you will see various skin tones in that tribe.
Yeah.
Various hair texture types in that tribe today. You will see that. So the as far as some people will look at that and then they will take it further and they will say, see, this is a proof that we were already here. Well, no, it isn't. It isn't. Just because you see that right there does not mean what they are trying to make it mean. Mm-hmm. Which goes back to what I said. You had blacks who had sailed here from Africa long before the Europeans came, long before Columbus, long before. So they were already here. And there's a lot of evidence of that. Now, were they here in the millions? No, of course not. They were not. Okay. So, I think you had another part to your question right there. Go ahead.
I said. So could those people in Connecticut be people who came over the land bridges over the Bering Strait 100,000 years ago? Then the Asians came over 50,000 years ago, co-opted them, and they moved over to Connecticut and said, "Leave us alone. You can have all what we had. You co-opted our customs and everything." Like when I look at the Native Americans now and they have the feathers in their head, it reminds me of how you can take dreadlocks and tie them into different styles. I've done it on the show here, and it appears to, and it looks like the way that they use feathers to represent that they co-opted them. And now the people who are talking about the native movement are trying to take back what was stolen from them, from people who came across the land bridges later, or who killed up people who had come on boats to America centuries before they had gotten here. That's my main question.
Logically, and then I think I answered part of that earlier. Mm-hmm. Logically, the people mix. Okay, you had people who had come across what was a land bridge at one time. You had people who came that way. And if you look up in Alaska, you will see the complexion of the Inuit people up there. You will see the complexion. Okay, you will see their hair types. You will see all of that. Because as people came on across there, some people would stay in certain areas. They would remain in certain areas. And other people would move on. Okay? Now, so you can see the evidence of some of that today. Now, you would have had mixtures also of people coming across on ships. This is the East Coast, after all, today. And the Africans, most of them coming from West Africa or North Africa, okay, they would have been coming into America's East Coast. Now, if you had someone, the African groups who left Africa long ago and made it to Australia, then if they came by ship, then they will be coming into the West Coast of what is the United States, okay? All right, they sailed here. So into Hawaii and those Polynesian islands and all. That would be where they would come into the United States. That would be the West Coast. So on the East Coast, back to Connecticut. On the East Coast, you would have, logically, some mixture over time between the ones who came by ship versus the ones who came by the land bridge. Okay? So, but again, there is no evidence, none, that says that those are the ancestors of these millions of African Americans who are in this country right now. African Americans, the black folks in America, is a mixture and an amalgamation of various groups. Mm-hmm. They mixed during slavery. They mixed after slavery. They're mixing even right now. So it's an amalgamation of all of that. Some people push and promote this whole purity thing. I'm like, it doesn't exist. It does not exist.
Well, there's no purity for any race, really. Because it all comes from a root, but there's no purity, especially for the Caucasian that has brown hair, brown eyes. That's not what a Caucasian would really necessarily look like. So there's no purity in that. For people who are just tuning in, we are talking to T. West from AfroSynergy News. Make sure that you leave a comment. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment areas and we will ask him the questions. Make sure you ring the bell and you click to be notified when we come on. So we talked about that and we talked about that extensively. What is the problem with the argument that ADOS is putting down for reparations? Because you're calling for reparations, but where is the disagreement in the way that it's being put across or delivered to the people?
Well, when you say ADOS, I don't like to just say ADOS because ADOS has different thoughts, and that group of those people who go under that moniker or that term ADOS, they have different thoughts and different concepts. It varies. So I would like to specifically say, if we were to speak of Yvette Carnell or Antonio Moore, for example. Okay, because I think they're the biggest voices out there right now. If you want to talk about ADOS, literally ADOS, I think they're the biggest voices out there right now under that. Okay. So if you wanted to say, if it was about them, Yvette Carnell, Antonio Moore, very often, they speak against African immigrants residing here in the United States. Okay? That's one area of disagreement right there. They speak against many, many things that tie African Americans to Africa. For example, you just have the year of return. Okay, so there were many of us who went to Ghana. We returned. We provided our story, our experience. Well, there was some pushback from Antonio Moore. There was some pushback from Yvette Carnell about that. Pro or con, there was pushback on that. So, now, and I've talked about the validity or invalidity of some of that pushback, because there was little praise about it. It was mostly pushback. Okay, so now I, for example, here's a contrasting difference. I, for one, know that most of the great nations throughout history, even right now, they have dealt with and they deal extensively with Africa. Okay? Now, if you have a group in America, a black group in America, let's say ADOS, that says, look, we're going to do all that we can to really sort of piss off on anything African. Okay? I have indicated, and I indicate right now, that those individuals are shooting themselves in the foot and shooting those who follow them in the foot, because historically, all great nations deal extensively with Africa. All of them. China, United States, the European Union countries, all of them. Okay? So, that's today. That's in the contemporary world. But I could go into the historical world also. I won't do that because I know we have a time schedule here. I won't do that. But those are historical facts, economic facts. And you don't shoot yourself in the foot economically knowing that, look, you've got a continent of 1.3 billion people, black people. Okay? Many of which would love to do business with African Americans here in this country. Okay? But if you're denigrating them, if you're demonizing them, if you're saying, well, they call us a kata. Well, most Africans on the continent don't even know what the doggone word akata means. Akata is a word that comes from a specific group, a specific area, a specific tribe group in Africa. Okay? So it's important to know that. In other words, you don't split hairs in that way. You don't swing at a gnat. Okay? Because that gnat is not going to do anything to you. But that is essentially what they're doing by raising little non-essential so-called issues like that.
Okay, let's extrapolate on that a little bit. Let's open that up a little bit, right? Their main argument comes from an article in the New Yorker. Well, not their main argument, but one of the pieces of the building block of their argument comes from an article in the New Yorker called My Great-Grandfather, the Slave Trader, Nigerian Lady Shares Family's Slave Trade Story. She's Adobe Tricia Wabani, right? My father succeeded in transmitting to me not just Wabani a go-go story, but also pride in his life. During my school days, if a friend asked the meaning of my surname, I gave her a narrative instead of a translation. But in the past decade, I felt a growing sense of unease. African intellectuals tend to blame the West for the slave trade, but I knew that white traders couldn't have loaded their ships without help from Africans like my grandfather. Now I'm going to also preface this with, when we were out filming during the main Floyd Mayweather fight against Pacquiao, I came across an African gentleman who had traveled in from Africa, right? I think it was Nigeria. And he was sitting, and I have this on film, and he talked about how there's a lot of reconciliation that has to be done because the African played a major role in shipping off people who they enslaved themselves, or who were debtors, or who were considered a lower class to them, to the European. So in that aspect, this is one of the building blocks of the ADOS argument, that there were Africans who are still rich today, who still profit from it by being able to travel the globe, and the people who were sent off have not yet been able to accomplish, because every time in America in particular, that's their argument, that every time they try to advance due to the racism in America and the different laws and Jim Crow and slavery, that they have not been able to advance. Every time they're knocked down somehow. But the root cause comes from those people, Igbo tribe in Nigeria in particular, and whichever other tribes in the different countries in Africa, who sold their own people into slavery. And that has to be reconciled before there can be truly a alignment or togetherness as one, like what Pan-Africanism really wants. So what do you say to that?
I say that it is mostly a bunch of BS. Okay?
Okay.
Mostly a bunch of BS. All right, now, what I would say to those who say that, I would say, okay, name that particular African family today that is rich today as a result of the slave trade. Name them. Name them. Okay? You can't, they shouldn't, they saying it, but they should not be allowed to say it without the question of, okay, who is that family today? Name them. All right? Secondly, they were talking only about Nigeria. Nigeria is only one part of Africa today. Okay? And the boundaries of Nigeria was just carved out by the Europeans, making it what is today one of the most populous African countries today. All right. Now, Nigeria is one, there are only two countries in the world that I have promised that I will not go to. Two. One of them is Israel, the other one is Nigeria. Okay? Now, you do have some people, and there were some people in those parts of Africa who were complicit, who worked with the Europeans in this whole situation involving slavery. Now, but that's not the end-all, be-all. You had some who willingly did it, just like you have today, African Americans right here in this country who willingly participate in trafficking of human beings, okay? Right here in the United States. Yeah. You have that. These are unscrupulous individuals. You had unscrupulous individuals, even in that day and time, in what is now known as Nigeria. You had people like that. But you also had people who, what happened was the Europeans, what they would do, they would sometimes hold members of your family as hostage. If you're a chief, if you're a leader, they'll hold some of your people hostage until you deliver a certain number of people to them to put on the ships to carry off into slavery. Okay, so those areas, all of those areas have to be included in this, not just what only support what you think is going to be your thesis, or support your mission, or support your agenda, which is to drive division between Africans and African Americans. That has always been the goal of white people.
Well, that's true. That's true, T.Y. I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. That, you know, that's been a goal of the European, right? But I have dealt with Nigerians right here in Las Vegas, right? And I can tell you that the arrogance that I get, and they're coming over here getting, perfect example, I used to do freelance before Franklin G. I used to shoot his show called Like It Is Radio. He passed on, but he's an ancestor now. But I used to do it, and he had the Nigerians come in, and it was one in particular that was always trying to me, my opinion, be slick. But he brought in a woman one time, and we were just talking, and I talked about the gripe that African Americans in this country have, and then she was like, "No, it's not like that. There's plenty of programs." I said, I thought to myself, I didn't feel like getting into it with her because she wouldn't understand the concept, because they were on selfishness, is what I perceived. But I thought to myself, yeah, it's plenty of programs, because those were the programs that we fought for in the civil rights era, that now they give to you, and when you come to this land, they tell you don't associate with us. And for the most part, unless they're trying to get something, they're trying to sell a ware or a good, or trying to say that somehow they have a service that is better to get you into Africa, that's when they will come around. But other times it's, you know, no communication at all. Or if they have a braiding business, they'll drop down into the community. But if you want to put flyers in their establishment, they'll be just like the Arab and tell you no. I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, I've dealt with Nigerians, and it's really a weird dynamic. They want to say, "Oh, brother," when they can use you. But other than that, now that's just my experience, and they can't change my experience. What do you say to that?
Well, as you said, rightfully, that was your experience. Some people have different experiences with that. Some people have more positive experiences with that. You know, when I was in Seattle, the years that I was in Seattle, when I was up there, you know, we started an African-American festival event that we had every year. And we carried that on for, I think it was almost about 5 years. And that was about bringing together the African Americans and all of the black ethnic groups in the Seattle area. Okay? Now, people who don't know and understand each other have a difficult time coming together. So, coming together gives you an opportunity to understand each other. You have a lot of Africans, a lot of African immigrants, a lot of African Americans who they talk about and over each other. Okay, they do that, but yet few of them, a very small number of them, actually get together to do some things together. Okay, so I've done that. You have some Africans who are exactly like you say. And you have some African Americans who are exactly like you said, are like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have, and I've seen them. I've experienced with them. So, but more importantly, it is once you find and discover a model that works, the goal is to duplicate that, is to make that work. That's what Pan-Africanism is. It is making those unity things work to the benefit of both, to the benefit of all. That's what Pan-Africanism, a big part of what Pan-Africanism is. It's not just politics. No. It's not just that. It's also social and economic. Because Pan-Africanism was born mostly out of what the Europeans were doing. In 1882, 83, when they had that meeting, Europeans had that meeting over there in Berlin about how they were going to divide up Africa. Instead of fighting and killing each other over Africa and Africa's resources, how they were going to work together and get the resources of Africa. Then that was a part of the reason for Pan-Africanism. Because Europeans get together. What is the European Union all about? It's about Europeans. It's not about Africans. It's about them getting all that they want from African and other people. That's what it's about. In 2011, it was NATO. That's a European military alliance. A NATO that invaded the African nation of Libya. Okay? Now, they know, they have enough intelligence, and I know black folks do also, but you have some charlatans out here. The Europeans have enough intelligence to know after 2 world wars of killing each other off big time, they know that in order for them to survive and really flourish, that they're going to have to work together instead of just killing each other off. And they get together and they kill other people off. Well, black folks, wake up. Wake up, African Americans. You're not an island to yourself. You cannot survive on your own. You cannot survive even depending on the United States government alone. Okay, you can't. All right, so that's what unity is all about. That's why I say to African Americans, to those who come from the island, and anyone in the black diaspora around the world, Europeans unify against you based upon the fact that y'all are black. Okay? You might be a rich and wealthy black man, but you're still black. Bill Cosby, you were wealthy, but you're black, and we'll take you down. Okay? Michael Jackson, you were wealthy, but we'll take you down. Okay, so unify. They do it. We must do it also. African Americans, African immigrants, black diaspora around the world. Unification. That's what Africa's doing right now. That's what that's what African Union is all about. That's what the concept of a United States of Africa is all about. It's about the formation of 55 states as one union. Here in the United States, you had what started out the different colonies, different states. Then they finally said, look, we're now so strong, separate. We need to form a union. We need to form a united group of states, known as the United States of America. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now, to Yvette Carnell, to Antonio Moore, and all the others, Dr. Paul Anderson, all of the others out there, that's my message to them, is that there is power in black unity.
United States of Africa, right? You meant United States of Africa, right? That's what they're forming, because you said United States of America. Did you mean United States of Africa?
That's right. I meant the United States of Africa.
Okay.
That's right. Thank you. United States of Africa. That not only, with the United States of Africa, that includes 5 regions on the continent of Africa. East, West, North, South, and Central. And then the 6th region would include all of us who want to be a part of that outside of Africa. America a few months ago got rid of the trade barriers between the different countries. Got rid of it. What is that? That's a prerequisite to a one unified union. And we here in the diaspora, how can we be a part of that if we allow our people, some of our voices out here, to just openly attack Africans, just attacking them, okay, without any real strong substantiation? Okay? If you're going to attack, let it be strong. Okay? I've got a problem with Nigerian leaders. I've got a problem with it. But I can articulate what those problems are. Okay? All right. I can substantiate what those problems are. That is not to say that, hey, someday things will be all right between me and Nigerian leaders. But what I'm saying is I'm protesting certain things. Okay? So that's my stance on that, my dear brother.
Okay, so we have a viewer, Shanine Hicks. She asked a question, and then I have up on the screen we have right now the corrective map of the world, and I have a question for you about that. But Shanine has a question. Ask him, what does he think about people going to get Nigerian citizenship, and broader than that, getting various countries' citizenship within Africa who are black? What do you say to that? What do you believe about that?
Well, I won't speak to Nigeria, but I know right now in Ghana, okay, you have African Americans right now who have citizenship in Ghana. Yeah. And more African countries are providing that. You have some African Americans who have now gotten citizenship in the nation of Gabon. Gabon is a very, very small African nation. They have a lot of gold, though. Okay. All right. But citizenship, that's coming. It's already here, and it's coming. It's going to be coming with more and more African nations. You know, Ghana put out the report at near the end of the year, a report at the end of the year, about, that year of return brought in a lot of money, a lot of tourism dollars. It did. I mean, we're talking about over $17 billion. Okay? All right. So now after that happened, Gabon wants to get in on that and start doing that. Also, Nigeria is now planning to get in on that because they see the money. Right. Okay? They see the money that's involved with that. Now, so citizenship, yes, you will be able to get citizenship in certain African countries, and as time goes on, the number of African countries that you will be able to acquire citizenship in will improve. It will go up. But remember that the goal of Africa, the continent, the goal is one Africa. That's all. That's North Africa all the way to the southern tip of Africa. All the way. That's what the African Union is all about. Those 55 countries as one. And then now remember, the day that happens, hey, if you want citizenship, you're getting citizenship. It's like an African citizenship. Okay. So I hope that sufficiently answers the question to your caller.
Okay. Let's get biblical for a minute, and we talk about the Arabs call America the Great White Satan, or they say down with America, America is evil and all that. But there is a corrective map that was put out by Stuart MacArthur, because back in the Hellenic days, Claudius Ptolemy flipped the map, because originally when people were doing the maritime and they were exploring, south was at the top of the map and north was at the bottom of the map, and Ptolemy flipped the map so that Alexandria, this was after the African, the Egyptian, all the dynasties had fallen and it came under Greek rule. He flipped the map so that Alexandria would be at the top, and thus and so everything in the southern hemisphere of the map has thus suffered, and everything that's on the northern half, which is mostly northern part of the hemisphere, has gotten all the riches. But when you do the corrective map and you flip it back, actually America, Canada, South America, Mexico, all of that is actually on the east. And when they talk about, something coming from the east, maybe the prophecies are correct, but we've been looking at it the wrong way because the map was flipped and now it's flipped back. It's an example of flipping back, and maybe the east is America, and what America is doing is actually right. And what would you say to that?
I say that's a bunch of BS. Okay, now look, listen. Okay, so with prophecy, true prophets also see the fact of what happens in the future. If maps are flipped, they also see that. So when they speak, when they write, they're writing it in the context of that era of time in which that thing or that event will happen. The East is, in fact, the East as it is today. And the West is the West as it is today. Now, if you have doubt about those things, then you go a little deeper. That's why when you start talking about biblical text and all, that's why it says line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. That means you study all of it. If it's scriptural things, if it's biblical things, you study all of it so that you have a well-rounded understanding of what it is that you're reading. Okay? So that would be my answer to that.
Okay, let me push just a little bit, so we can get clarity here. Okay, people write in the time that they know, right? Like, we can only write in the time that we know, and we can say that things are going to happen and they come to pass, and we say, oh, see, that prophecy came to pass, right? But what if during the time when they were writing these prophecies, the map was southwest, northeast, and then it was flipped later after these prophecies? What do you say to that? What if the three kings is actually Canada, America, and South America, and that what they're doing is right? Let me finish the whole point. And that remember, the Europeans are the ones who came over here. They are still true West, and I'm just looking at the map because we have it up on the screen, and Russia would be considered the great Satan if they were writing from this particular vantage point from how the maps existed then. That's my main question to that. And if that's so, just the hypothetical, if that's so, are we looking and blaming the wrong continent for the evil, when actually the evil came from the true West and came over to the East, which would be South America, Mexico, America, and Canada? But the West was still those European countries that were at the bottom of the map. That's my question. If that's so, are we not blaming the wrong continent? That's my question.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
The old saying, you know a tree by the fruit that it bears. Okay.
Okay.
We don't see Russia invading countries and lying and invading countries militarily. We don't see that. Iraq, 2003, the United States killed over 1 million Iraqis. All right. In Syria, under the Obama administration, they sponsored working with terrorists there, which amounted to the killing of more than 500,000 people in Syria. In Libya, in 2011, tens of thousands of people were killed by NATO's bombing and all in Libya, and sponsored also by their boots on the ground, the terrorists who were killing people there in Libya. You know a fruit, the tree by the fruit that it bears, and what the United States has done, You don't see Russia doing that. You don't see Russia. Russia did not go into Africa and pull the people out of there and enslave them. They didn't do that. Okay, you don't see China doing that. China didn't do that. The United States and her mothers did that. Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Sweden, on and on. They did that. Okay? All right. So that would totally blow that argument totally out of the water. Okay, totally. Okay, that's why I say line up on line, precept on precept, here a little, there a little. You got to know it all. You got to understand the whole thing, the whole matter of geopolitics and history. And once you get that, then those types of questions right there, you know, it's like, oh no, that's a weak one. Okay, so we know what's what and who is what. Okay, when we start talking about what nation is dictating and controlling economics around the world and applying sanctions upon nations around the world, well, that's not Russia. Russia's not doing that. China's not doing that. India's not doing it. Iran's not doing it. That's the United States and its European mothers. They're the ones who are doing that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer right there.
Okay, so let's switch gears now. We got through all those questions, right? So let's get to the African Americans' national political agenda, right? It is, and before that, let me preface by asking a question. It's a 21-point agenda. Let me ask you, because you were the first one that we listened to where we actually found out that the pastors had a 10-point plan with Trump.
Right.
And before we get into yours, right? How many of the 10 points from the pastor's plan were implemented by Trump, and how successful has it been, and what has the holdup been, if any?
I'm not even aware of these pastors' 10-point plan, so I couldn't answer your question on that. I'm not aware of what they have in their plan.
Oh, okay.
If you have that in front of you, we can go over it.
Yeah. I mean, because we heard it, because you talked about it on the show, but I don't know. That was back in 2015, though. Okay. Yeah, I have it in front, but we won't talk about that. We're going to talk about yours, because that's what we first heard. But anyway, okay. So number one, government study on the adverse effect today of slavery, Jim Crow, and discrimination against African Americans, adverse effect on establishment and accumulation of general health, and the monetary value to beneficiaries of slavery, Jim Crow, and discrimination. Right. So the first four points here really go together, where we talk about reparations, Bill HR 40, talking about the 1619, the first arrival of the first 20 in 1619, the British colonies, French, which would go back to 1554 actually, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about America. Why did the Dems appear to care about the bill HR 40, but now they've just totally, or maybe it's something happening behind the scenes that we don't see in the media, they seem to have put that up for the 1619 celebration in June, but since then nothing has been said about it. Why have the Dems pretty much seemed to put that on the back burner, in your opinion?
Well, one of the main reasons is because anytime you can remove or find a way to remove one of the voices who was running for president at the time from the debate, you can effectively almost silence any conversation about, at least in presidential debates among the Democrats, you can silence that. They got Marianne Williamson out of that equation. So during the debate, if she wasn't there, she couldn't say anything about it. So that's one way of doing that. And also part of mainstream media. They're also responsible for that, because sometimes they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about other things. They want to talk about Donald Trump, okay? But Trump has also brought up the word reparations. He brought it up. Dianne Feinstein brought it up last week, but she wasn't speaking positively about it, okay? And then among the Republicans, Mitch McConnell, he brought it up, but he wasn't speaking positive about it. But the main thing is that they're bringing it up. That's the big message. they're bringing it up. So that means that some progress is being made, because if they weren't saying anything, no progress is being made with it. So, and then also, with item number 4 in that agenda, that has now been fulfilled. When I wrote this agenda over a year ago, item number 4 had not been accomplished, but now it has. And item number 4 says, produce a U.S. Senate bill equivalent to the House bill, H.R. 40, on reparations. Okay? So that's been accomplished. So, and that's all a good thing. It's all a good thing. So the Democrats, they strictly only, some of them at one time only wanted to pander with it. But when some of those candidates, Democrat candidates, discovered that, hey, man, this is some real serious stuff, and people really want to talk about this, and they're responding to this, then the Democrats, some of those candidates started pushing back against it. Bernie Sanders started pushing back. Elizabeth Warren, she started pushing back. They started talking about, reparations for this group, that group. Okay? They wanted to start to do what they always have done. Black folks come in, they fight for affirmative action, they fight for their rights and everything. Then here come all these other fringe groups come running in and say, me too, me too, me too. Give me mine, where's mine? Okay? All right. None of them went through slavery. None of them went through chattel slavery. Absolutely none of them. Okay? So, and that was Elizabeth Warren, the Bernie Sanders, those types of people. So they weren't serious about it. They never been serious about it. So, now, and they don't, if they were ever to become president, which they won't, they wouldn't even have the power to even push it through their way. They're weak. Yeah. Okay? So, you stand a better chance with reparations with Donald Trump. African Americans do. And I stated that. I stated that before, and I maintain that. Okay, but anyway, that's my response to that. I know we're going through a little bit of this African Americans' national political agenda. Okay, so, all right.
Number 6, all citizens of the United States must have the right to vote, and that right must be protected. Some would say black people have never been given citizenship rights totally. What would you say to that?
I say that's BS. Okay? Some people, and some of those same people say, we're not free. That's BS. We're free. Some of them are not free. Okay? In their own minds, they're not free. The first level of freedom first starts within the mind. Even when people were physically enslaved in this country, some of them, in their minds, they were free because they had decided and determined that they were not inferior, okay? That they will be physically free someday. But you had others who were enslaved in the mind, and they felt, and they had no inclination, no fight in them to ever fight for freedom. They never believed that they could be free. Okay? So, for voting, black folks can vote today in America. Now, you have a bunch of shenanigans that are carried out with voting, gerrymandering, redistricting, all that kind of mess that's going on between the Democrats and the Republican parties, depending on which area of the country you're in. You have certain areas of the country where Democrats, they don't want a black person to be elected into Congress, so they'll redistrict certain areas to make sure a white candidate wins in the Democrat Party. In the Republican Party, they're no different. They're doing redistricting and gerrymandering. They do the same thing. So you have all of that, and that is reflective of the fact that voting is a part of the power structure here in the United States of America. It is a part of it. Money is the other part of it. So those are the two twins, voting and money and voting in America.
Okay, so number 15, courts and police departments must uphold the constitutional rights of African Americans, ensuring they are free from 9/11 calls solely based on racism that can and has led to the death of African Americans. Question on that is, with the 1866 Civil Rights Law, Section 1981, up to be gutted by the Supreme Court, who will be held to what racism is? under the 1981 section, it was so that people could take people to court to fight for their rights, but you have to prove what racism is. How, if they come back in the summer, in June, just before the election, and they strike down 1866 section 1981, won't number 15 really be null and void, and won't we be like back in a place where we're back in 1865 in 2020?
No, that is if the Supreme Court do it. And I don't think the Supreme Court is going to do that because across the country, the lower courts have, some of the courts have ruled, and some of them have ruled the other way. The lower courts have actually ruled in favor of that section of that 1860, was it 1865, 66?
1866.
What year was that?
1866, section 1981. Yeah.
Yeah, the 1866 Civil Rights Bill in that section, whatever that section was, section 1981?
1981, yes. Yeah, in 1981, I thought it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Might be 82.
Okay, that is if the Supreme Court makes that ruling that way. But even if they did, no, it would not discount what I have proposed in section 15, which is that the court and the police department must uphold the constitutional rights of African Americans, ensuring that they are free from 911 calls solely based on racism, okay, by white folks, okay? Because you had a lot of that was occurring here in this country, especially with white women, okay? So those things you want to bring that to bear, because that is in the interest of your group in particular and specifically. Mm-hmm. So those are my thoughts on that.
Number 17, health care for African Americans must be in proportion to the severity of the need as reflected in ethnic comparative studies. Explain that. Ethnic comparative studies. What does that mean?
Okay, what that means is this. It's simple. You have Center for Disease Control. You have National Medical Organization. They run the numbers. And when they start running the numbers, you see that diabetes affects African Americans at this huge, much larger rate than it does white Americans. You'll see HIV/AIDS is very high among African Americans. You'll see that high blood pressure, all these ailments, various things are much higher among African Americans, but you're not contributing a comparable amount of funding to address that problem. Okay? And then, because then you have to get into the question of, why is it that African Americans, these ailments are affecting African Americans at a very much higher disproportion? Okay? Part of it is because of the legacies of slavery, Jim Crow, all of that. All of that plays into it. All of it. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. All of it. So, therefore, you have to include that into the African American national political agenda, because healthcare is a very, very big issue, not only among African Americans, but especially among African Americans, but also a big issue in this country. It's a big issue. But, the ones who are more sick, they are the ones who should get the most attention. And the numbers have always shown that these things, various things, affect African Americans more so. Okay? You have, probably if you ran the numbers, you probably even find, I'm sure you would find, that if African Americans who are maybe waiting for a heart, an organ transplant, they are probably on the waiting list longer. Things like that. That's what I'm talking about with that.
Mm-hmm. So this is a 21 point plan. People can search it, AfriSynergy News, African Americans National Political Agenda. They can download it and read it for themselves and get it into their minds to push for these. How far along do you think, because you have hinted to the fact that Donald Trump, president number 45, will be implementing, some of these points from this program, if not all the points. How soon will we possibly hear him start to? Because he's already started his campaign with the with the campaign about what he's done for Black people already. That's through the Super PAC.
Right.
But when will he begin to speak about these points or the African American national political agenda? When you think he will start to roll that out to get about 35% of the African American vote this time?
Well, I think some of these things, of course, Trump is already addressing, okay? I mean, the First Step Act, we know that 93% of the prisoners who benefit from the First Step Act, 93% of them are Black. Well, but that should not be a surprise because nearly 100% of those who were adversely affected under the crime bill, under Bill Clinton, were Black. Okay, so now those who are benefiting from the First Step Act, and that's just the first part, that's not the second part yet, are mostly African Americans. That's a good thing. That's something that we should applaud the Trump administration for. But much more can and should and will be done. So, now with this plan right here, you will see some different versions, a little bit of this. I'm working with some brothers and sisters right now on a 5-point plan. Okay, 5 points. But it comes out of this 21-point agenda. Okay. So we're working on that right now. But this right here, these whole 21 points right here, this is for all of those of you who are out in your local communities and districts. It's for you to learn from and to use to educate others on what is our agenda, what is the Black agenda, okay? Not what is the preachers, Black preachers agenda. I probably did do that. I probably had forgotten about that 10-point agenda. Okay, I probably did.
Listen, T. West, we listened to you, so of course, but you did, and I just wanted, you were the first to, because they were ridiculing the preachers, calling them sellouts and doing what they do in the media.
Right.
And then when you came on and you actually broke down the plan, you actually went through the 10 points. We were like, they're actually trying to come with something, but that's water under the bridge now, and we're talking about what's happening leading into the election, and this is what we're gonna, because this is almost 2 hours, and we have to go on with the rest of the show. But we wanted to take the time with you, and we got through everything that I wanted to ask you. And we appreciate you coming on the show.
And you have a great show. I call it AfriSynergy News. It's basically a network. For me, it's a network because we watch you every day, and you give more great detail than the darn MSNBC, CNN. I mean, you really break it down and you make it more understandable for us. It's more palliative, and
palatable.
Palatable. Thank you. Palatable. And it makes more sense compared to like the bits and pieces that the media will feed you
on the slant.
Yeah, you give a complete picture of everything, and
so we appreciate.
We really appreciate you.
So with the remain, because we have 21 minutes left on the line, so we're gonna finish it, then going on with the rest of the show.
Right.
Tell them where they can hear you, see you, how they can stay in contact with you.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, sister, and thank you, my dear brother, for your kind words. It's good that you do watch the program. But now, for your listeners and viewers, you can see AfriSynergy News. I'm on YouTube. I'm also on Facebook. So all you do is just Google it, AfriSynergy News. AfriSynergy is one word, AfriSynergy News, AfriSynergy News. And you can find the programs out on YouTube, and you can also find me on Facebook. You can also find some content over there in Twitter That is under my email name, which is WESTTHEA. That's WESTTHEA on Twitter. So you can find all of that information in those 3 locations. I really appreciate you all for inviting me to your show and mixing it up, because I don't mind the challenge. I don't mind the challenge at all. I appreciate that. So once again, thank you all. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Thank you. And this will be on replay on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and all the different podcast formats in about an hour after we get off. So you'll be able to listen to it again, and it'll be in and up in perpetuity. And we appreciate you. Thank you for dropping the knowledge down. I wanted to give you a platform where it wouldn't be too much aggravation of pushing back or too much. But I had to ask some questions, but I didn't want to make it a debate where the information could not be disseminated, and that's what we want.
And
to
your
make
voice,
sure.
your voice is extremely important, and we do respect you, and we really, really appreciate you coming on our show.
All right. Well, I enjoyed being on the show with you all. I really appreciate speaking with you and speaking with your viewers, your listeners.
All right. I appreciate you, and have a great evening. And we're going to go on with the rest of the show. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right, people. So that was T West from AfriSynergy News, right? And we got 18 minutes left. I wonder if I can get all this in within 18 minutes. Let's see, people. Let's go to the top 5 shittiest endings to episodic TV. We're just going to run through these real quick. Number 1. Okay, that's your list. Number 5 is Power. How are you going to kill off Ghost when Ghost, to me, his story seemed like the 50 Cent story, trying to do what was necessary to get out. People kept coming to him, and he had to do what was necessary to get to where he wanted to go. He wanted to get out the game. They kept pulling him in the game. Poor ending. But, we're still watching the next episodes to see who killed Ghost. But really, it should be a dream sequence like who killed JR. Number 4. Boardwalk Empire. Horrible. We wanted to see what Chalky White was going to do. They just did him in. Number 3, The Leftovers. That was worse. They didn't even show the woman go over to the other side and come back. They just talked about it in dialogue, and it was like you ran out of money to tell the story. We went through that season. Number 2, which some people would say is number 1, but Game of Thrones. Horrible. Number 1, Black Sails. Black Sails, we went through all that, and we found out that the dude gave up so he could have find his love interest at a debtor's prison in Australia with he just gave it all up for that, and he was battling all that time. So those are the top 5 worst, right? Worst. The shittiest endings in episodic TV.
It's frustrating because you invest so much time into these different series,
and then they do that.
They fall flat on the end.
That's right. Okay, people. So we went to go see Just Mercy, based on a true story. Jamie Foxx, Michael B. Jordan. It opens with Jamie Foxx's character. Shows the audience what he does for a living. The roadblock, the stop, the arrest. Then the audience is introduced to B. Jordan's character, who is a legal aid a couple of years from graduating with a law degree, a chance meeting leads to his decision to be a legal advocate as a lawyer for prisoners that are on death row who may be wrongfully convicted in Alabama. That's where the story kicks off, The use of film grammar in this film, beautifully done. The way that they introduced you to both characters, beautifully done. The image sizes to introduce Jamie Foxx, dope. The storyline, the through line of the story is clear. The acting between Jamie Foxx and Michael, both actors are giving in the within the give and take, right? Within the scene. They are giving to each other, so they're not trying to step on each other, outact each other. It is acting at its best, and the edits that are done, incredible. The secondary characters, actors, bring strong performances.
Like
right?
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson
Played Ava Ansley. O'Shea Jackson Jr. He played Anthony Ray, Ice Cube's son, right? And we know him from Straight Outta Compton. Tim Blake Nelson, who played Ralph Myers. I mean, he did a great job. Rob Morgan, who played Herbert Richard. Great cast.
Great cast.
Yeah.
So the cinematography is a 10.
Right.
Film grammar a 10.
Yeah.
Story 10. Acting 10. Lighting 10.
Yeah.
The editing 10. Sound recording 10.
Yeah.
The scene when there's something that happens in the jail.
Oh yeah.
And the way that they cut the scene, and you know that it's happening, and the sound recording and the images they use, incredibly done.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. You should see this film. What would you rate this film?
Definitely a 10.
That's right. I
Definitely
give it a 10.
Well written.
Just mercy. Well worth seeing. Okay.
And did we said based on the true story?
Based on the true story.
Right.
Based on the true story.
Right.
Stay all the way to the end. Watch everything. Okay. The next film we went to go see over the weekend is Like a Boss.
Right.
First film under Tiffany Haddish's production company. At first, we weren't going to go see this film, right? Because my thought on it is Tiffany Haddish is such a big star that she should have another black co-star with her, right? But Tiffany Haddish from Night School plays Mia Carter. Rose Byrne, who did she play?
She plays.
It's not listed.
Yeah, Male.
She plays Male.
Right.
Salma Hayek, movie star. She is a bona fide movie star, right? She plays Claire Luna.
Yeah.
Billy Porter, who is standout in this from Pose, he plays Barrett.
Yeah.
Jacob Lattimore from The Shy. I don't know who he plays love interest. The side piece of Tiffany Haddish.
And Jennifer Coolidge.
Natasha, excuse me.
Right.
Rothwell. I can't remember right. And she's from Insecure. She's one of the friends. She plays Jill. She plays one of the friends. But I could have seen her opposite Tiffany Haddish in this. Jennifer Coolidge. Two Broke Girls.
Yeah,
she plays the woman who owns the place in Two Broke Girls. She plays Sydney, right? Yeah. The script story. And
then Ari Grainer from the Showtime show, with the comedians. I can't think of the name now. Jim Carrey's executive producer.
She was in the film?
Yeah, she was the friend. We said that she would have been.
That's right. She would have been better. She put on some weight though, and that's why I didn't recognize her. But she plays for I'm Dying Up Here.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. She's good, right?
And then the last person would be Karen. My screen would go blank. Yeah, he played Selma Hayek's assistant.
That's right. Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah. Karen Sony.
That's right. The script story could have been stronger, right? Yeah. It's a buddy film. We've seen it done better before. Right. It's the story which is weak, right? The story is weak. Right. Truthfully, it was better than I thought it would be, but it was exactly what I thought it would be, right? The acting. For what Tiffany, Salma, Billy, Natasha was given, they brought the laughs and the drama. Yeah. They brought the laughs and the drama in the piece. Rose Byrne, on the other hand, her acting made it seem like she didn't want to be there. Yeah. Her facial expressions as the
acting and energy.
As a supposed friend made it seem as if she had just met her opposite co-star. She had just met Tiffany Haddish. Right. The two aren't promoting the film together, so that's telling. No chemistry. Right. Tiffany and Salma should do more films together. The chemistry is there. Which that's where Tiffany Haddish is.
Yeah.
She's on the level. Salma Hayek is a bona fide movie star.
Yeah, she is.
Right?
Yeah.
About 30 years in the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe over. 30.
Maybe over that. But and Tiffany Haddish has been in the game since comedy in the 90s. So she's over 30. So their paths may have crossed.
Right.
As Tiffany Haddish was getting larger. But that chemistry is there.
Yeah.
You can see it. They should be in there. Okay? Storyline is a 3. Acting, supporting characters, I give them a 7, right? But then there's some breakouts in the piece, right? As we bring up Like a Boss cover real quick as we close out. So you know that we were diligent on our work. There we go. Look, Tiffany Haddish acting 10. Salma Hayek acting 10. Rose acting, we told you why, 2. Billy Porter 10. Film grammar 7. Lighting 10. Laughs are 7 because the script, what they had to work with, it was weak. And for this to be Tiffany Haddish, it's not like Night School. Night School was well conceived, well put out there. The writers really cared, in my opinion, or our opinion. They just didn't really feel it here. And so, what would you rate the film?
I enjoyed the film, although I could tell that her co-star wasn't. She didn't seem to be too invested in the character.
She was not.
So, but like you said, the rest of the cast, Tiffany and Billy Porter, Salma Hayek, Jennifer Coolidge, I mean, they all, Jacob Lattimore, they all really, really brought their work to the table, and they did a great job. It was entertaining.
It was entertaining.
So, I would give it, 8.
Okay, well, you're a little bit more.
I mean, because Tiffany Haddish did a great job. And I went to see this film thinking of it as, it's the Tiffany Haddish film, right? So I was there for her, right? And she delivered. And so she brought the jokes, she brought the acting, she brought the energy, she brought the style in her clothing. Hair and makeup was nice and flawless, right? So she did a great job, so I would give it an 8 based on Tiffany.
The basic critique, the more cultural critique of it, I would say, or the society or the cultural or the political side of it is Tiffany Haddish is such a star that she needs, in my opinion, to start to push her co-stars being her, being a black co-star. Right? It's like Kevin Hart, everything he does is black co-star. Except for the ones when he did with his production company, he does The Rock. It's him. In Night School it was her. It's co-stars are black. He's coming up with Uptown Saturday Night, the remake of that. He's trying to tap Chadwick Boseman, and Idris Elba. So his mind is on pushing black and pushing black internationally. The only critique I have is Tiffany needs to do that, and the reason why we wanted to go see the film is because Tiffany was talking some good stuff on
the Breakfast Club.
On the Breakfast Club, because she's been through it now on a higher level, and she's starting to see things and more than what she would see before. The higher up you go, the less of you see, and so she was talking some good stuff on there. And so at first we weren't going to go see the film. I said, because who is this woman opposite her? To me, she was, but the Burns woman was not even on her level. Not even on her level. Salma Hayek is on her level. So I see that. And that's why the poster has Salma Hayek in the middle as the person. And then Tiffany Haddish is the star. So she's to the left. And then the other girl flipping money is to the right. But she was just like this poster, and you see it's left to right. That was the significance of her. Exactly the way the poster was laid out, and those two going together to promote the film strikes a lot about what it is, and they should do more films together because their chemistry on screen was better,
as well as on live, with her and
the
what was the Andy Cohen show?
Aaron Cohen show, So you gave it an 8.
Yeah.
I have to give it it's funny, it should be seen, but don't go there for any, because the opposite to Tiffany Haddish doesn't give her anything. So Tiffany Haddish works harder to bring it through, so I have to give it a 3. I think she was in my opinion, a poor casting. Yeah, just for that, because
you
she
can't
is a
put
poor
that
casting.
far down because of the co-star.
The co-star. Co-star is a lot. When you have buddy films, classics with
the co-star is important.
With co-starring, they were equally billed. Bill Cosby,
right,
and Sidney Poitier, right? When you have buddy films, they have to be equally yoked. When you have Night School and you have her and Kevin Hart, and they were equally yoked. Will Smith and Martin, they equally yoked. Martin Lawrence equally yoked. You cannot just pull in something thinking that you're going to
throw them in the mix together.
Thinking that hey, we're gonna make it. She didn't have her team writing the script, I don't think. Right?
There has to be a chemistry.
It has to be a chemistry there, and you can't just say, okay, we can throw Tiffany Haddish into anything and put her with these people who are not even on her level, not even known on her level. Like, old girl might be known just a little bit, and maybe they thought Tiffany Haddish would gain her fans, but she don't have no fans because no one even really knows her. What was she in the one movie with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, that's the only one.
That's the only one, right, people? So, people, listen. This has been another robust episode of the Film Review. Movies, music, culture, politics, and society. Listen, we had T. West from AfriSynergy News on. We made sure that we expanded the length of the interview to make sure that we got all of the information in and unimpeded. Because I hate people coming on platforms and then they are impeded with people's opinions. Forget the opinions. Let's get the knowledge out there and let the people decide. And that's what we do.
Yeah, speaking of knowledge, like you said, it was an honor to have T. West on the show. And we watched his show for years, AfriSynergy. And the people who watch your show, like we say, we go there to get our AfriSynergy PhD. Because you walk away learning something from T. West, right? So it's an honor to have him on our show.
That's right, people. So next week we're going to be having more trailers. We didn't get to the trailers, and we want to get this show up as fast as possible on all the different podcast platforms. So we didn't go through the trailers, but we will bring the trailers next week.
Trailers and music, right?
Trailers and music next week, right? Shanine says using Tiffany to pull her up. That's right.
What I thought too, Shanine.
And then Shanine said, I wonder how she got the job. That's right. So look, people, this has been another robust episode of the Film Review. Movies, music, culture, politics, and society. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
I'm the voice of the filmmaker, and my wife is the voice of the
film critic.
That's it, people.
Just a critic.
That's right. So stay tuned. Next week we have another great show coming on. And we appreciate you for tuning in. And we will see you next week on the Film
Review.
Review.
The Film Review. Music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on Facebook at Crazon Dion.
Hey everybody, this is Lunell, the original bad girl of comedy. I'm here at the Link Promenade in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, and you're watching the Film Review.